You're 17, and the girl in the back won't stop shaking. Drive, the man says. You don't ask why the doors are locked. You don't ask why she won't look up. You don't even turn around, because deep down, you already know something is wrong. You just don't want to be the one to say it. You don't ask. That is the rule. Rain hits the windshield hard, fast enough to blur the road ahead into streaks of light and shadow. The van smells like damp seats and cigarette smoke, and your hands grip the steering wheel tighter than they should, the plastic creaking under your fingers. The man beside you lights a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating the scars across his knuckles, and he stays calm, almost too calm, as if none of this matters. He doesn't look at you, not once. In the back, the girls sit close together, their heads down, their silence louder than anything else in the van. One of them is shaking, shoulders trembling, but no sound escapes. That's what gets to you, not the fear, but the silence. The questions rise again, but you swallow them, just like before. Level 1, the offer. 3 nights earlier, still 17 and desperate enough to listen, you were standing in a dim alley behind a rundown pool hall while rain dripped steadily from a broken pipe above. He stepped out of the shadows wearing a gold chain and a calm expression, the kind of calm that makes things feel simple when they're not. He told you it was easy money, just transportation, nothing more than driving from one place to another, dropping people off, and getting paid enough to cover 3 months of rent in a single night. He leaned in closer, his breath smelling like alcohol and confidence, and told you there were no questions involved. At that point, your mother was getting worse. The bills were piling up on the table, and the eviction notice had already been taped to your door like a countdown. You were tired of watching everything fall apart while you stood there doing nothing, so you nodded, even though something in you hesitated for just a second. That first night, when the cash was placed in your hand, it felt unreal, thicker and heavier than anything you had ever held before. He smiled, patted your shoulder, and welcomed you into something you didn't fully understand yet. Later, lying in bed, you tried to convince yourself that it was nothing, that you were just helping, just driving, just doing what needed to be done. You repeated it until it almost sounded true. Level 2, the first job. By the time you turn 18, you're sitting alone in a cheap motel room counting money under a flickering light as if it's become routine. Outside, the van is newer now, cleaner, more reliable, and everything feels smoother, more organized. The girls this time are younger, and that's the first thing you notice, followed quickly by the second, which is the hope in their eyes. At the bus station, one of them walks toward you holding a small bag and wearing a nervous smile, and when you notice the gap in her teeth, just like your cousin's, something inside you tightens. For a brief moment, you consider leaving, walking away, pretending you were never part of this, but 18-year-olds with no money don't walk away from opportunities like this. The drive is long and quiet, with rain tapping against the roof and headlights cutting through the darkness, while you keep your eyes fixed forward, refusing to think too much about anything. When you reach the drop-off point, the money comes again, thicker than before, and you take it without hesitation. You use it to buy better medicine and food for your mother, and when she hugs you and cries with relief, you smile back, but inside, there's nothing, just a hollow space where something used to be. That night, you drink until your thoughts blur, because it's easier than remembering her face. Level 3, the system. At 19, everything starts to feel structured, like a system you've learned how to operate without thinking. You have routes, schedules, burner phones that only light up after midnight with short messages, and you follow them without question. You don't ask where the girls come from, and you don't ask where they go after they disappear through doors you never enter. You don't ask their names, and you don't ask why some of them flinch when you speak. You don't ask because that is the rule, and following that rule makes everything easier. The money grows, and so does your life. Better clothes, a better place, things you couldn't afford before, and the voice in your head that used to question everything gets quieter with each payment. One night, a girl leans forward and speaks softly, telling you that her brother is still looking for her, and that he won't stop searching. You freeze for a moment, just long enough to feel something, but then you turn the radio louder and keep driving, letting the noise drown her out. Level 4, the scale. By the time you reach 20, you're no longer just a driver. You're running things, managing 2 vans and someone who now works under you and calls you boss with a mix of fear and respect. It feels organized, controlled, almost like a real business, and you repeat that to yourself often enough that it starts to sound believable. Then something breaks. At a gas station under harsh lights, one of the girls suddenly runs, barefoot and desperate, heading toward the store as fast as she can. You react without thinking, chasing her down and grabbing her arm harder than you meant to, pulling her back before she can get too far. When she looks at you, you see something you've been avoiding. Real fear. Not confusion, not uncertainty, but fear directed straight at you. You force her back into the van anyway. Later that night, sitting alone and counting money, your hands feel wrong, like they're carrying something you can't wash off. You stand at the sink and scrub them again and again, but it doesn't change anything. Level 6. The doubt. At 21, the doubt starts to grow, slowly at first, then stronger, showing up in nightmares, in quiet moments, in the way your mind refuses to stay still. You begin seeing faces when you close your eyes, hearing things at night, checking your mirrors too often, as if something is always just behind you. During one drive, a girl thanks you, her voice soft and genuine, telling you that she'll finally be able to help her family, and for a moment, you almost believe your own lie again. Then she asks your name, and without thinking, you give it to her. That's when it hits you. This is the first time you realize you might be the villain. Level 6. The crack. At 22, everything begins to fall apart in ways you can't control. One night, your second driver disappears, the safe house is empty, and one girl is missing. The boss calls, his voice cold and direct, telling you to fix it. You drive through the night, every shadow feeling like a threat, every sound like it's coming for you. And when you finally find her at a payphone, crying and begging for help, you drag her back while she fights harder than anyone before. Back home, you collapse in the shower and throw up, realizing that sleep is no longer something you can rely on. Every time you close your eyes, the same sounds come back, the same scenes replay, and there's no way to escape them. Level 7. The watching. By 23, you don't feel safe anywhere. You notice everything. Cars that stay behind you too long, people who look at you just a second too long. Even your reflection starts to feel unfamiliar. You change phones, routes, places you sleep, trying to stay ahead of something you can't fully see. One morning, you spot a missing poster, and when you recognize the face, the girl who reminded you of your cousin, something inside you stops for a moment. You stare at it longer than you should, then tear it down and walk away, because looking at it feels worse than ignoring it. Level 8. The fall. At 24, it ends without warning. Not with noise or chaos, but with sudden light and movement, and hands pulling you out before you can react. You're dragged from the van while the girls scream, and cold metal locks around your wrists as everything finally catches up to you. One of them looks at you, not with fear, but with understanding, and that look hits harder than anything else, because it means she always knew. In the holding cell, sitting alone for the first time in years, you finally ask the question you avoided. What happens to them? No one answers. Level 9. The consequence. At 25, everything changes. Prison is smaller, louder, and heavier than you imagined, and there's no silence to hide in anymore. Your mother stops visiting, and the last time you saw her, the look in her eyes stays with you longer than anything else. At night, the memories return. Every face, every moment, every choice, and you finally stop asking for anything at all. That is the rule now. You realize too late that the real cage was never the bars. Final reflection. Years pass, and you sit there, older but not better, with nothing left except the memories of how it started and how it ended. The money is gone, the power is gone, and the excuses no longer mean anything. You were never just the driver. Somewhere right now, another kid stands in the rain, hearing the same words you once heard, and just like you did, he will say yes. And when he does, it will all begin again. You close your eyes. You don't ask. That is the rule.